Hey guys, hope I'm audible to everyone and hope you can all see my screen. Once again, welcome all of you to today's session. All right, so just to set a couple of guidelines up front, and once again, thank you all for being a part of today, part of the session. It's going to be a long journey. So over the next few weeks, it's going to stretch for uh, around 3 to 4 weeks, the entire Power BI course. And over the course of the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to learn, we're going to delve deep into Power BI. The objective is to kind of make all of you uh, familiar with the tool and just about good enough so that you're good to work in projects. Okay, so the idea is again to uh, before I get started any further, and today is going to be primarily an introductory session. Just going to have just have a conversation, try to understand about each other. So I'm going to try to understand a little bit more about some of the work that you guys are doing, and also just to set up the few guidelines up front. As you understand, it's the webinar session. It's a live webinar session, and all of you are muted by default. So that is how we're going to do the classes. So all of you are going to be muted by default. And anytime if you have a question, I've already seen you've been able to use the chat window. So all of you should have access to the chat window. So feel free to use the chat window and ping me, answer questions, ask me anything. So there'll be time and time again when I'll ask you some things and you have to reply back. So try to answer all those queries over the chat window rather than unmuting and coming online, because what happens in a webinar session is we have hundreds of participants joining in from different corners of the globe, and it becomes a big distraction at times when we unmute a lot of folks. So obviously I would be happy to take up individual queries, individual questions. Probably we can block some time towards the end of the session or during the break periods where I can go ahead and unmute all of you. But by and large and in general, all of you are going to be muted by default, right? So that's one of the guidelines that I wanted to set up front, and hope all of you are comfortable with the chat window. The chat window is something you should all be able to see. Obviously there'll be a couple of options you will get. One is obviously you can send something only to me or to the organizers. So any kind of queries that you have here related to the session, please try to address all those queries to me. Okay, and at times you may not have an immediate response, so it may take some time. So let's say, for instance, I'm discussing a particular concept. So in such cases I can revert to you only after some time, but rest assured all your queries will be answered promptly and on the same day. So no worries on that, because at times what will happen is I might archive your queries. I get a lot of questions. I might archive your queries, and I might be taking all of them up together at the end of the session, in which case answers to your questions might be delayed, right? So wanted to just set a few of these guidelines up front. Technical issues, of course, are a very, very common issue that might crop up from time to time. At times, it might so happen that my internet is not working correctly. You're not able to hear me fine. It could be an issue from my end. It could be an issue from your end. Whichever way, whatever happens, please ensure that all of you are continuing to communicate over chat. So any point in time, any kind of disturbances you feel like are happening, feel free to notify me over chat window that, hey, you know what, your screen is freezed, or I can't hear you properly, and stuff. Okay, and likewise for you also. At times, there are scenarios, and I've faced this a lot in my sessions, where candidates are, for some reason, people are joining in from their cell phones. Some people will join in from, but then the best way to do it is to just leave the meeting and join the meeting again. Okay, so whenever you're faced with those kind of issues, just try to leave the meeting and join back again. Just cancel, just come back again. Just click on the same link and come back, join the meeting again, right? So now we're going to go ahead and do a quick round of introduction. So I'm going to try to understand a little bit more about our participants here. So why don't you all go ahead and drop in a few quick lines to me over the chat window. So I have the chat window, and this is just for my reference. Of course, I'm going to keep your introductions. It's just for my understanding what kind of an audience we have and what your expectations of the course are. Essentially, let's limit that to what your current role is, what kind of work you're doing. Have you worked in the field of BI before? Have you worked in other kinds of tools before? What are you doing in technology? What kind of technology stuff have you done so far? Specifically, what is your core area of expertise? And finally, the biggest question is, what draws you to Power BI, and in fact, why Power BI? So, and what really are your expectations of the course? So I'm really interested to know something about yourself. So all right, thank you for your introduction, Vishwa. So, Vishwa, I just wanted to understand a few other things about you. What have you worked on, as you mentioned, web-based application? Have you worked on any other similar BI tools, be it ETL, be it data visualization? Have you worked on similar such tools before? You have any expertise with data warehousing, database technologies? So, if you can just put across a few quick lines, and most importantly, what really brings you to Power BI and why Power BI? All right, thank you for your introduction, Vishwa. So good to know that you already have some knowledge about MSBI technologies, ISASRS. That's great to know. And obviously, one of the things about Power BI is that you will see is it's a huge improvement from the traditional reporting tools like SSRS, and you can connect to that particular thing very easily. All right, that's great. Thank you, Shirisha. Thank you for the introduction. All right, that's great. That's great to know SQL Server. Obviously, the focus of the course is going to be Power BI, but it always helps to have some basic fundamental database knowledge, because a lot of the discussion that we have here is going to be based on fundamental concepts of databases. Because at the end of the day, when you look at Power BI, you have the concepts of tables, you have the concepts of tables, rows, calculated columns. So many of the fundamental relational database concepts will be applicable in Power BI as well. Okay, although it's not a relational database per se, but it's always good if you have some basic knowledge of SQL Server. All right, that's great. Thank you for introduction, all of you. All right, just to mention a little bit about myself. Cheyenne here, and I've been associated with the BI field, BI analytics field over the past 7 to 8 years now, and I have worked across a wide spectrum of tools. I started off my career with the traditional BI tools of MSBI, SSIS, SSAS, SSRS, the entire SQL Server data platform stack, essentially. In the process, I've also cleared a lot of certifications, starting right from MCTS right down to Microsoft Certified Solution Associate, and finally on my way to become a Microsoft Certified Solution Expert. Okay, um, one of the things that I've done over a period of time is to eventually move into some of the more advanced data visualization tools, or what we like to say modern BI. Okay, and which is more into the realm of Tableau, Spotfire, Power BI, ClickSense, and over the period of time, I also used extensively the programming languages of R and Python, and essentially developed machine learning models, and eventually, gradually, I've shifted my career over to the data science track. So it's a very broad-based skill set I have. It's a very broad experience I have, and essentially it's Power BI is a big part of my portfolio because it's Microsoft. So my core expertise lies in Microsoft, and as I mentioned, that it's very exciting. And being in this field, having started my career in the SQL Server data platform, having done so much in the SQL Server BI stack, it's great to finally have a product like Power BI, and this really is where my core expertise lies. All right. So once again, thank you all for being a part of this session, and I really look forward to having an engaging discussion, essentially conversation with all of you. And the reason why I mention a conversation is because I really expect all of you to be participative, because that's the best way to learn. Keep asking questions, keep having doubts, keep challenging me. Whenever I explain a concept to me and you don't understand something, feel absolutely free to raise questions, and keep challenging me all the time. Right. So thank you all of you once again. So the idea today is just going to be to walk you through a very basic overview of Power BI. I really wouldn't be going through some of the any of the technical stuff in today's session, because it's an introductory session. I wanted to keep it very limited to a very broad discussion of Power BI in general as part of today's session, right? So before I proceed any further, I really wanted to understand if any of you have any understanding or any prior experience with Power BI. Have you got any opportunity to learn something about Power BI, explore something about Power BI? So any kind of any experience that you guys might have at this stage? Got an opportunity to read about Power BI anywhere? That's great. Thank you for the replies. So that's great, Shirisha, that you have gone through the videos of Microsoft Power BI. So Microsoft does have some very good documentation on their website, and over the course, I'm going to show you some other stuff, where exactly what to look out for, from where to learn, what are the resources that are there at your disposal as you're going through this session on Power BI. So, but that's great. That's great to know that you have gone through the video, so that hopefully that you already have some basic background, and that should have given you some clarity as to how easy it is to actually develop something in Power BI, especially for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience on the technology field, doesn't have a lot of experience in the BI field. You gradually get to know how easy it is to actually transition into Power BI. Okay, it's very easy to learn, and essentially it's pretty motivating actually, because of the very short learning curve, right? Unlike a lot of other reporting tools like Cognos, SSRS, which does take a bit of learning, right? Probably if you go through a session on Cognos, probably take you 3 weeks of continuous practice to actually pick it up, right? But compared to Power BI, I mean, you go through a session probably 4 hours, 4 days full session, 3 full day sessions. I mean, actually 24 hours. In less than 24 hours, I'll probably put a cap on 15 hours. You should be good with Power BI. Okay, that's the amount of hours that you require for being an expert in Power BI. Okay, so and that's one of the reasons why I mentioned that the learning curve is very short. It's one of the reasons why Power BI is such a powerful and such an exciting and such a popular data visualization tool. Okay, not only Power BI, by the way, you have the likes of ClickView, you have the likes of Tableau. They're all part of the same stack. Okay, and I will talk a little bit about, and as we proceed further, maybe not today, maybe not as part of today's session, but as we proceed further, I will introduce you to what is business intelligence. As you can see that right now, what I've opened is the Power BI website. So one of the very first things that you can see on the website is business intelligence like never before. So I'll introduce you to some of these terminologies. What is BI? What is the meaning of BI? Because very important to understand this first thing, right? So because it's Power BI, right? So what is BI in the first place, right? What is BI? So it's very important to understand that as well. So we're gonna talk about some of these concepts as well as we proceed. So just to again set expectations upfront, how we're going to do the course. The course is going to be primarily geared towards beginner level. So we're going to cover it at a 50% beginner level. We're going to have 30% intermediate content, and there's going to be 20% advanced content. So there's going to be something in it for everyone. So the idea is to basically take you from 0 to 80 in less than 3 weeks, essentially. Okay. So given that you know absolutely nothing, so the idea is to take you from 0 to, I mean, obviously you'll master the beginner concepts, but not only beginner level, we're also going to discuss a lot of advanced concepts over the course of our discussion. Things like DAX, things like, measures, calculated columns, all that stuff we're going to cover. Not only that, we're also going to cover the service extensively. So by the way, you have see there are 2 components. We're going to talk about the Power BI desktop. We're also going to talk about the Power BI service. So what I've opened right now is the Power BI service. So we're going to have a broad discussion about all these concepts over the next few sessions that we have going to plan. Okay. All right. So now we've been talking a lot about the initial part. Now, what is BI? As I mentioned, what is business intelligence? When you think about Power BI, what is business intelligence in short? What do you mean by BI? What is BI? Any answers? Any thoughts? What is BI? Probably this is not this. Maybe the question will not be suited for folks who have already worked on BI, because obviously I understand that you will know the answers. So you're absolutely correct. But then this is more geared towards folks who have not heard of the term BI. So essentially, who have not worked on BI. And just a general question: what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear of the term BI, business intelligence? Because when you're learning Power BI, essentially it's a BI tool, right? It's a business intelligence tool. So even before we dive into Power BI, it's important to understand what is business. What is BI? No, it's very natural question, right? What is BI? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of BI? Okay, absolutely correct. Some good answers that I'm getting right now. Thank you for the proactive responses to all of you. Well, in short, business intelligence is, and most of you are correct in most of the respects. And BI in short means using a set of tools, using a set of softwares, technologies, methodologies to ultimately add value to your business, right? How are you adding intelligence to your business? And what do we mean by adding intelligence to our business? The whole point of adding intelligence to our business is to kind of enable your business leaders enable your business leaders to make better business decisions, right? So you're using a tool, like Power BI, you're using a tool like Tableau, you're using a tool like ClickSense, you're using a tool like MSBI, SSRS, SSA, SSR. Use any tool, think of any tool, any software. You're using a set of techniques, tools, methodologies to ultimately add value and intelligence and insight to your business. And what are you achieving as the end result? So what are you achieving as the end result of adding insights to your business? You are enabling your business leaders to make better business decisions. But that is the whole crux of BI. Okay, and that's what it is, isn't it? So we are living in a world which is exploding with data. Think of it, data is coming from so many different places. You think of today's it's in normal corporation today. Every corporation has an online presence. They have a Facebook presence, they have a LinkedIn presence. Hundreds and thousands of customers across the globe will be commenting. Probably someone will have a negative feedback, they will be complaining. So think of the amount of data that is coming in, think of the amount of data across systems that's flowing in, and to manage all of that, to use all of that, to use a software to basically utilize all that data and ultimately add insights to your business leaders. That's what BI is all about. That is what business intelligence is all about. There are a lot of BI tools in the market today, and when I say business intelligence, the short form of business intelligence is called BI. A lot of different BI tools in the market. And there's something called traditional BI. Remember when I started off with discussion, when I introduced myself, I said I started off with the traditional BI. I like to call it MSBI. So that's the Microsoft BI stack. Okay, SQL Server stack essentially. Okay, the likes of SSIS, SSAS, SSRS. Then there's something called Ab Initio, Informatica. So they are all falls in the category of traditional BI. Okay, and traditional BI was costly. Traditional BI used to take a lot of time. It was not very fast, in short, and the learning curve was very high. So essentially, if you hire a person, or just imagine some of you who are taking this session and who are come from a completely different background, for you to pick up something like a MSBI, for you to pick up something like a Informatica, it'll take a lot of time. So the learning curve is steep, and they're mainly meant for professionals who are in the field, who are in the BI field, right? So that has been one of the major challenges of the traditional BI. Okay, and that is what things were, even at least. It's not to say that traditional BI doesn't exist today, because mind you, there are a lot of projects on the likes of MSBI even in today's world. But gradually, traditional BI has been, in short, converted to, it has basically made way for self-service BI, right? And the term self-service BI relates to BI in the hands of business users, right? What is self-service? In short, self-service means, think of it from the concept of what we understand by a self-service restaurant. So what happens? If you want to have something, you will go to the counter, you will pay the money, and you will have to collect the food from the counter, right? So essentially, you have to do everything. And that is exactly how self-service BI works, right? Now, please understand, whenever we build something as technology folks, all of your technology folks here in some way or the other, whenever you want to develop a solution, ultimately you're building something for your clients, right? You're building something for your clients. So whenever the client wants something, the client will basically approach the IT department. They'll basically have a session. They'll basically have a requirement gathering meeting, and requirements will be gathered, then design will happen, then coding will happen, then testing will happen, and finally, after all the long cycle, deployment will happen, and after that, production support will happen, right? So it's a long process. So this is how traditional BI used to work, right? So first, clients will approach the IT team, and in short, the clients had a lot of dependency. The business had a lot of dependency on IT in traditional BI. So because the learning curve was very steep in such traditional BI tools, the learning curve is very steep. Business leaders, they will not be using the tools directly. And this is where self-service BI has really been a revolution. In self-service BI, when you look at tools like Power BI or Tableau or these kind of self-service BI tools, the power is right now come to the hands of the end user. So now the end users can, if they want something, they don't have to approach the IT team of the respective company. They can simply build it themselves. So if I look at the Power BI dashboard right now, and let's say if I want to build a very simple example I can take. Okay, now again, I'm not going to get into specifics here, as to what we are doing, what we are trying to achieve here. So these are all separate discussions we're going to have over a period of time. But just to give a simple example right now of how easy it is to build something in Power BI, I'm going to connect something called, just connect to an Excel sheet here. Okay, going to take a very simple example right now. So you can see that how I'm loading my Excel sheet right now. Right. So imagine yourself as a business leader, and essentially you want to build a dashboard. So in traditional BI, what would have happened is you would have approached your IT team and you would have given your requirements that, hey, I want to build a bar chart. And the IT team would have probably taken a month to build a bar chart. So that is how typical projects work. So it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of documentation that happens. So what self-service BI says is, okay, if you want to build something, you go back and do it yourself. You don't have any dependency on IT. And that's where self-service BI has really been a game changer. So it's easy to learn. Learning curve is very short. Hence, businesses can learn the tool themselves and they can basically get up and running and build stuff by themselves. You can see how easy it is. You can select the orders. Okay, just point and click, just check boxes. You can just look at the entire Excel data here. Okay, just click on load. See how easy it is to build this. Right. Again, the idea is not to kind of get into the depths of the tool, because the tool is something we're going to focus on later on a more in-depth demo. But this is just to show you, the concept of self-service BI, how easy it is. And think of it from the standpoint of a business user. Think of yourself as a business user, and it's almost visual, isn't it? It's almost so visual. I mean, if you want to know what has been my sales by every region, all you can do is just click on sales, just select on city, or if you want to know, sales by every city, so click on sales, click on city, and you can see. And if you want to know sales by city based on a map, so click on sales, click on city, and maybe you want to do click on a map. So you can actually click on sales, click on city, and click on the map, and see how automatically it'll basically populate this in the form of a map. Okay, so see how powerful it is. Okay, you want to build a bar chart, you want to build a pie chart. See how quickly it is going to achieve all of this. Okay, if you want to do it by city, you don't want to do it by city, you want to do it by region. You can see how quickly you can navigate. Okay, and see how I have built a pie chart based on region. Okay, you don't want a pie chart, you want a bar chart. See how easily I can change it. Okay, and if I want to something else, if I want sales and profit, okay, I want to see the sales and profit. See how quickly I can build it. Okay, so I'm not happy with a bar chart. Maybe I want a scatter plot. So you can actually take a scatter plot, right? So the idea here again is to highlight how it will not be perfect all the time. So at times, there'll be instances when you have to make manual interventions. But the idea is to show you how easy it is to build all of this in Power BI. That is the basic idea. So as a business leader, you can see how easy it is to build this. Okay, let's say if I don't want region, I can actually take something else, and you can see how easy it is to build it. Things like correlation analysis and stuff. Okay, so we're going to get into all these things in a lot of detail going forward. But again, this is to highlight that if you're the IT manager, or let's say if you're the business leader, if you're a fund manager, and if you want to build a simple report for your business to for a presentation that you have, instead of approaching the IT team, you can save a lot of time. Just open up the tool, build it yourself, and that's it. You're good to go. You've saved, you've probably saved a month's time if you get it. So that's what self-service BI is in short. And this is what Power BI is. Power BI is just another self-service BI tool. Obviously, Power BI is a product of Microsoft. Just to highlight once again, Power BI is a product of Microsoft, and it's very powerful in general. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Okay. There are mainly two components, and again, these are things I'm going to get into later on. Maybe keep our discussion very limited right now. Vishwa, you have a question. In-depth knowledge of MSBI required to understand more about Power BI? Absolutely not. Well, I mean, they are two completely, different. As I mentioned, that's traditional BI, and this is self-service BI. So absolutely not. So, there are folks in our audience who have absolutely no understanding of MSBI. So it is definitely not a prerequisite. So in fact, to be honest with you, for Power BI, I mean, I did mention initially that having knowledge of databases is important, but it is not a prerequisite. So if you have to work in Power BI, do you need to know anything? Answer is no. You have to know. I mean, you can start with absolutely no knowledge of anything. You can be from a law background, and you can be a doctor and you can still learn Power BI. In short, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, so there are no prerequisites in terms of what you need to know and what you don't need to know, and that's one of the other reasons why I mentioned it's a self-service BI tool where anyone can pick up. The learning curve is very short, and essentially it's pretty easy to master overall. Okay, now I will have a more detailed description with all of you regarding the product, the different kinds of things that you have here. But I will really encourage you to kind of go ahead and download a few stuff here. So one of the first things I want all of you to download is the Power BI desktop version. Okay, again, we have, I mean, we are going to go through all of this later on, probably in the next session. We're going to talk about what the different kinds of products are. But for the time being, I want all of you to go ahead and install Power BI desktop. So maybe you can do this once our session completes. That's a Power BI desktop. So please, all of you, ensure that you're downloading the Power BI desktop version. So it's a free download, so there's no payment required. Microsoft ensures that it's available free of cost to everyone. Okay, pretty surprising, but that's what it is. It's one of the reasons is that Power BI is a very new thing. It's a very new thing from the Microsoft stable, and they've basically, as a marketing effort, they've kind of made it exposed as free for the time being. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of charges coming later on. That's at least what we guess, but for the time being, it is free. It is free to use. Okay. So set this up, download it for free. Please set it up on your system, on your local system. You don't need any server for this. You can install it very much on your personal laptops, and we should be good to go. All right. So please set this thing up. You can probably do this after the session. So any queries and questions that you guys might have, and again, as I mentioned, we're not going to get too much into the technical stuff right now. So maybe that's something we're going to start on from the next session, from next Saturday India time onwards. So idea was to more understand, have an introduction from about the audience, the participants, get to know each other well, just to introduce you at a very basic level in what we are learning, just to give you a very, very broad glimpse as to what's ahead of us and what the end product essentially of where we're getting at, right? So any questions that you guys might have at this stage, maybe take up a few questions right now. All right, thank you, Vishwa. Any questions, guys? Anything at all at this moment that you would want me to address? And as I mentioned, the discussion is going to be pretty limited today. I'm not going to get a lot into the technical stuff. It's going to be a much more extensive session next week. Okay, we're going to get deep into Power BI. We're going to learn some of the components of Power BI. Do we need to have any license for Power BI? Answer is no. You don't need to have any license for Power BI. Shirish, I can understand your question. Maybe you're trying to look at it from the point of view of Power BI Pro license. There are some internal concepts associated with that, but in short, as I mentioned, something called the Power BI service. I mean, I don't want to get into this right now, but then to answer your question, in short, answer is no. You don't need any license. There is something called the Power BI service. Do you need a license for that? Answer is no. You don't need any license for that. There is something called Power BI Pro, but Power BI Pro also is free for 2 months, 60 days. And essentially in Microsoft, you can extend those 60 days. So in short, the answer is you don't need any license. You don't need to pay any money for this. Okay. It's free to learn and it's free to work. Yep. All right. All right. So I'm going to give it a minute more for any questions at all. And definitely one of the other things I wanted to mention is it's a great choice. Some of you have made obviously from some of the participants who have already have knowledge in BI, probably who have already worked on other BI tools. It's a great addition to your skill set because it just goes to show that you've mastered, you've scaled up on something which is a self-service BI tool. So especially if you're working on technology projects where you're helping out your clients to implement SSRS solutions. I have worked on projects myself where I've essentially done migration projects where customers want to migrate from SSRS to Power BI, right? So we already had existing reports in SSRS, we had existing reports in Cognos, and customers wanted to migrate to Power BI. So that's basically a great skill set to learn, so that essentially you know both worlds. You know a traditional reporting tool, and now you also know a so-called data visualization tool. I have also worked on projects where essentially customers are migrated from Power BI to Tableau, right? So because Tableau's capabilities are little better than Power BI, and also vice versa. I've seen cases where customers are migrated from Tableau to Power BI. So essentially, it's a big world. And in short, self-service BI rules today, right? People are increasingly moving towards these kind of data visualization tools. But within these top competitors, Power BI is a very, very clear leader. So it's a great choice that you've made. Great job prospects today in Power BI. A lot of openings, a lot of companies are hiring, and one of the best things about Power BI, as I mentioned, is it's easy to learn. You got to have some analytical ability. Some basic mathematical knowledge is required for you to deal with bar charts, line charts. You have to have some intuitive understanding of data, which is very important. You have to have the knack to have fundamental understanding of numbers, basic concepts of correlations, basic statistical concepts. We will talk about some of that stuff through our sessions, but having some fundamental understanding is always required. It's always good, in fact. I won't say required, right? So guys, we're gonna keep it at this for the time being. We're gonna have a very short session today. It's more of an introductory session. Okay. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys are. I'm definitely looking forward to having a more engaging discussion, engaging conversation with all of you, right? So please ensure that all of you are installing the software, and we will meet once again and resume and continue our discussion next Saturday, India time next week. Thank you everyone. Thank you all for joining in again. Once again, I hope all of you enjoy the session. You guys have a good day, have a good night, have a great week ahead, and I will see you again next week, same time. Till then, bye-bye.